US of A, it'd be about 50 trillion with the T dollars. Well, I'm hearing on Fox News, 12 trillion, oh, we underestimated by 1.8 trillion. Hey, listen, it's mind-numbing, those numbers, but have you ever tried to even count to 1 million? How about 500,000? Now, if you were to take, well, I'm going to really depress you, aren't I? I won't go there. Here's the bottom line. What must happen to the United States of America is already happening, and by design, it is fast propelling us towards a one-world economy. Let me say it this way. This must come to pass that the end might come. In other words, the faster we move towards a one-world government, a one-world economy, and even a one-world religion, the sooner the Lord comes and takes away His church. In other words, it shouldn't catch us off guard or be of a surprise to us when we see these things begin to come to pass. Well, there was an interesting article in One News Now on Friday with the headline reading, "Soros manipulates euro. Is U.S. dollar next?" Here's an excerpt from the article. A scholar and New York Times bestselling author suspects left-wing billionaire George Soros is trying to manipulate the euro as part of his goal of establishing a one-world currency and a one-world government. Dr. Jerome Corsi, author of America for Sale, Fighting the New World Order, Surviving a Global Depression, and Preserving USA Sovereignty, believes this is a George Soros-led effort all the way. Globalists like Soros will ultimately say, now, let's go to a one-world currency and a one-world government. The scholar concludes that this is what Soros has been working to accomplish. Meanwhile, President Barack Obama has done nothing or even said anything about protecting the dollar. You've heard me say it time and time again. There is an effort by design to destroy the U.S. dollar. Why? Because it's in the way. It's in the way of what? It's in the way of this new world order that will usher in a one-world government and a one-world economy and a one-world religion, all under the control of one Antichrist in place of Christ. I want you to consider with me a couple of passages in the book of Revelation. Here's why. There's a common denominator that we find in the last book of the Bible, and it relates to buying and selling in what the Bible calls the 7-year tribulation or the Great Tribulation. Now, before I draw your attention to the first passage in Revelation, I want you to hear this and don't miss this. The Bible foretells that in the last days there will arise a figure, a man, a very charismatic and very powerful man that will be possessed by Satan himself, and the world will marvel after him. When we say Antichrist, we don't always mean against Christ. We can also interpret that as being in the place of Christ. And this man, by the way, will be the Christ that Israel will embrace as their Messiah. But he will be the false Messiah. Now, under his control, he's going to bring Palestinian and Jew together. He's going to allow somehow for the rebuilding of the Jewish temple. Then at the 3.5-year mark, he's going to set himself up in that temple and demand that he be worshiped. And that's when he commits what the Bible calls the abomination that causes desolation, defiling the temple, some believe by sprinkling the blood of an unclean swine on the altar there in the Holy of Holies. And that's when Israel will realize this is not our Messiah, because our Messiah would never do this. And then they will flee, I believe, to a place in modern-day Jordan called Petra, where for the last half of the 7-year tribulation, God will protect them from the Antichrist and from all hell breaking loose. Now, all that to say this. The Bible foretells that the world's economies will collapse. The Bible foretells that the world's governments will collapse. And the Bible foretells that the world's religions will unite. So in the end, when this man is revealed and unveiled, he will control the world. He will control the world with a one-world government, a one-world economy, and a one-world religion. And Revelation chapters 6 through 19 are all about the 7-year tribulation. Listen, and if you would turn to Revelation 6, verses 5 and 6. John is recording that which he is seeing, that which is being revealed to him. While you're turning there, I would like to say, I'll never tire of saying this, that the book of Revelation is not a hard book to understand. I believe it is a tactic of Satan to keep Christians from reading the only book in the entire 66 books of the Bible that promises a blessing to those who read it, hear it, and take it to heart. It's not a difficult book. It is full of imagery, and there's a reason for that, but it is a book that has a divine outline and foretells events that will take place yet future. The book of Revelation is an easy book to understand. You know what the book of Revelation means, or what revelation means? It's the Greek word apocalypsos. What's apocalypsos? Where we get our English word apocalypse. Well, we think of apocalypse, and some of us, I'm dating myself here, we think about that movie by Scorsese, Apocalypse Now. What a dark movie, but we think about apocalyptic and horrific, and yes, it is horrific, but do you know what apocalypsos means in the original language of the New Testament? Unveiling, revealing, taking the cover off, bringing light to, and revealing that which will take place yet future. That's what the book of Revelation, revelation. Again, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but it's pretty simple. It's a revealing book. That's why it's called a revelation. It's a revelation. It reveals. Okay. So, Revelation chapter 6, verses 5 and 6. I'm glad we got that out of the way, and I got that off my chest. So John is recording now about the third seal. This is the judgment now of God. And he says, when the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creation say, or creature say, come. I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Put that in your hip pocket for just a moment. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the four living creations saying, a quart of wheat for a day's wages, and 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. Okay? Scales, a picture of commerce. They would use the scales in buying and in selling. So they would put the weight, so you would know that you were buying X number of quarts or ounces or pounds or kilos or whatever of that particular product. Now, Revelation chapter 13. This one perhaps more familiar to most. Verses 16 and 17. He, speaking of the Antichrist, also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay? Chapter 6, chapter 13. Here's the common denominator. In both of these passages in Revelation, having to do with the tribulation, there's a common denominator of hyperinflation that enables the Antichrist to enforce a one-world government and a one-world economy. In other words, when you just print up play money and, to have these trillions of dollars to put into circulation to, continue to increase your debt, there will come a point where that dollar that you have in your pocket becomes worthless.